You're now listening to That Wrestling Podcast. Here's your host, Money and Clyde. Welcome into the show, folks, and man, do we have a fun one today. We're talking IC champs, but just a little bit differently than last time. We're just going to count down a list of 10, our top 10 Intercontinental champions of all time here at That Wrestling Podcast, and I'm so excited to get this started. What about you, Clyde, brother?
Oh, I can't wait, man. The Intercontinental champion is the workers title. You know what I'm saying, brother?
Yeah, man, that Dean Douglas type of feel. Yeah, absolutely, brother. I can't wait to see where Mr. Douglas ranks on the list, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have him on there, but we'll see. He might make our list.
Yeah, are we going to talk about apples today at all? Are we going to talk about apples or oranges? Or
There's a good chance that we're going to talk about pineapples.
The Pineapple Express, baby. Okay, so real quick before we start the list, how you doing today, brother?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. I'm sitting over here looking at this list, reliving all the memories of some of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, did you break out your Randy Orton tights? Next question.
Yeah, well, the Randy Orton tights, I don't think I'm never, ever going to be able to get into them. It's just not going to happen. But maybe, I doubt it. I'm gonna say no.
Just keep them framed on the wall, baby. All right, let's get started here before we run everybody off the show. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. What we're going to do is we're going to count down from 10 to 1, our top 10 Intercontinental champions of all time. We've worked long and hard on this list, and if you agree with it, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool also. Let us know in the comments, and it'll be a fun little debate. All right, starting out at number 10, I'm going to go first, brother. I've got Mr. Perfect. How can you go wrong there? Let's just break the ice right there. Some people have this guy a little higher, but, man, the two-time IC champ, Mr. Perfect, got to have him at number 10. What do you think, brother?
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I could see him being number one on a lot of people's list, and we might get a little heat, baby. I mean, the Mountie might show up at your house and shock you over this, brother.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Mountie didn't show up in May of 1990 when Perfect won that, was it a tournament, I believe, for the vacant IC championship. It was vacated by the Ultimate Warrior. And, Henning came out on top, brother, and you got to have him on the list, man. Talk about a tactician in the ring, man. That guy really was a skilled, probably as skilled of a wrestler as there's ever been, We're talking about just pure skill.
Yeah, he was just as good as anybody who laced a pair of boots, man. He looked the part, and, legendary prankster, and probably was one half of the greatest Intercontinental Championship match I've ever seen, and it didn't happen at WrestleMania 3, believe it or not.
Oh, man, that's actually a hot take. Which match was that, brother?
Well, it'd have to be him and Bret the Hitman Hart. That was the match, the first time I ever watched a wrestling match and was like, okay, there's more to this than all the other stuff. I mean, it was just real athletic and real hold. And it was art. Like, Bret Hart's always talking about pro wrestling as art, and I agree with it if it's the right wrestler doing it.
It was almost kind of like one of those matches, sort of like the Macho Man and Steamboat match, where it almost turned the page to a new era, you know what I mean? It almost opened up the world's eyes to, how wrestling could be.
Yeah, it's just that whole technical wrestling, and it's just classic, man. That's just old school.
Well, let's move on to number 9, brother. Who do you have? Number 9 on the list, top 10 IC champions of all time.
I'm hoping here that I don't end up with apples in my face, but I got Carlito, Caribbean Cool, Carly Colon, from the world famous Colon family at number 9, brother.
Well, what makes him number 9, brother? What puts Carlito at number 9? Because honestly, lots of IC champions. You could have any 10 guys on this list, and you really couldn't argue with it. There's been, so much prestige associated with this title over the years. But what makes Carlito stand out to you that places him so highly above these other competitors, dude?
I think he had everything he needed, man. I think he had a 10 on the look. I think he had a 10 on the skill, and he had a 10 on charisma. It was like he was the perfect package, in my opinion, to be a pro wrestler, and it's a shame he didn't end up back in the WWE, but I'm thinking, he's doing his own thing out there, so, good for him. He just really stood out to me a lot at a time when not a lot of guys did.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of skill, and I'm pretty sure he's doing his thing all over the world right now. And but just for a guy that had the championship one time, brother, I do have to give you a little flack about that. One-time IC champion. But you can't deny. I believe you told me this a while back. I think you said that when Undertaker was rehabbing, he wanted to actually rehab with Carlito. So that goes to show you, that just he is respected throughout the wrestling community, especially among his peers.
Yeah, any of our listeners out there that's on WWE network. They got part 2 of The Undertaker, and they got Primo in there getting The Undertaker healthy. So it tells you what kind of talent these guys really have.
So I can't give you too much flack for that, brother. All right, let's move along, man. Number 8, here's who I'm going to choose right here, buddy. And I just get hyped up thinking about it. I'm getting up, I'm shaking my bedposts in my bedroom right now, brother, because the Ultimate Warrior is just buzzing through my mind, man. Number 8, the Ultimate Warrior. This guy could be ranked higher. 2-time Intercontinental Champion, a bundle of energy. What do you think, brother?
I'm feeling the power of the Ultimate Warrior right now, brother. I will say this about him. When I very first started watching wrestling, he might have been even more popular than Hulk Hogan. And I remember the little battle they had. I was a Team Warrior over there. My friends were painting their faces. And I think you even gave me a gorilla press once into the canvas.
That must have been a long time ago, brother, back when you was in high school.
Yeah, I believe you and your brother, y'all doomsday device one time also, but that's a story for that.
You had to have it coming, brother. But I think about the Warrior that stood out to me, too. I think that stands out to everybody. The iconic moment, dude, when he won, I believe this was at the inaugural SummerSlam, dude, 88, 89-ish, right? 88, I think, dude. And he beat Honky Tonk Man in 27 seconds with that squash match, dude. And man, that just set the energy for the entire night. And although it was a quick match, I think it was called for in that circumstance, dude. And I mean, to this day, that's just a memorable 27 seconds.
I might have been the only kid in the world that was upset because Brutus the Barber Beefcake was supposed to wrestle the Honky Tonk Man, and he had an unfortunate parasailing accident, and the Ultimate Warrior ran in there and did his thing, man, and one of the loudest pops, maybe the loudest pop ever in an Intercontinental Championship match.
Man, yeah, 1988 was just the Ultimate Warrior's year all around, wasn't it, brother?
Yeah, he definitely left his mark. I know a lot of people, this and that about his wrestling, but, man, the character was over, and they was printing money with the Ultimate Warrior.
Man, they was, because at the 88 Survivor Series, he was the champion, he captained the team, and he was the sole survivor. I think he took out Outlaw Ron Bass and Greg Valentine. And, man, just what a year that was for the Ultimate Warrior in general, man. Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah, rest in peace. I heard you on that one.
All right, let's move along, though, brother. Now, I think number 7 actually works in tandem with number 8. Who do you have at number 7?
I got the Honky Tonk Man at number 7.
One-time Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man. Talk about a memorable guy from like the mid-'80s, dude. You can't think about rock and wrestling without thinking about the Honky Tonk Man. And what makes him stand out to you?
It was cool. He was cocky. He was bad. He was a heel. When he smashed the Macho Man with the guitar, I got so upset. I thought my parents were going to throw me out of the house. Whenever I think of the heel and I think of the Intercontinental Champion, he is the very first one because just a great villain, man. A heel, top. Got to be right up there with anybody.
What I remember most about his runs with the IC Championship, and I know Ric Flair was also really good at doing this, but the Honky Tonk Man was the first guy I seen do it all the time, week in, week out on television. Was like, I think one week he'd be like wrestling Ricky Steamboat, the next week it'd be like Bruno Sammartino or George Animal Steel or somebody. And every time Honky Tonk would just get himself counted out deliberately just so he could keep his belt, dude. I just love that about him, man. He would just sit out there in the ring, he wouldn't take no damage, he'd get counted out, he'd grab his belt and leave. I just thought it was so cool.
And he had the ultimate varnish. He had the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, out there making him look even better, and just the whole thing, man. Especially sometimes down in the deep South, disrespecting Elvis like that.
That's right.
Might get you done.
That's right, man. It's almost like saying something bad about you don't talk bad about Elvis down there. Who else is it? You don't talk bad about Bill Dundee, and you don't talk bad about Jerry Lee Lewis, baby.
Yeah, and you better not say nothing about the Kingsbury Lawler either.
That's right, brother. That's right. All right, man. Speaking about people who's got a good mouthpiece, man, I'm going to have this guy here at number 6, and it's hard not to have him higher, dude, because I want him higher because how many times he's had this Intercontinental Championship. But The Miz coming in right here at number 6, 8-time Intercontinental Champion, and I'm sure there are guys who deserve to be on this list who are not on this list, but there's no way you can leave The Miz off this list. 8-time Intercontinental Champion, brother.
Yeah, 8 times, and probably the safest wrestler that there is, man. And, if I was a wrestler myself, if they said you got to get in there with The Miz, it'd probably be a night off. That's how safe this guy and what kind of reputation he's got. And somebody that really clawed and earned his way all the way to every one of those titles.
Yeah, and the really the most memorable win of the 8 for me was I think they called it like Raw 1000 or something like that, when The Miz faced Christian and he defeated him, and it was the first time that he was the 25th Triple Crown champion, I think, with WWE, and he became a Grand Slam champion also in the process. Man, that was just a huge night for The Miz, dude.
Yeah, one of the best matches I've seen in the last decade was The Miz and Dolph Ziggler, and they had a match, I believe, on SmackDown. I want to say it might have been even in his hometown of Cleveland, and it was just a beautiful match, man. A lot of false finishes, and they were all over the place, and it was a beautiful match.
Speaking of beautiful wrestling, let's take it on back again, brother. Who do you have at number 5?
Number 5, let's see. Who do we have at number 5? The British Bulldog. One of the greatest wrestlers ever, in my opinion, from the Dungeon. I'm sure everybody that'll listen knows all that. But the match he had was Bret Hart over there at Wembley Stadium. It was one of the best matches I've ever seen, and without going into too much detail, you know, he wasn't exactly in the best place to be in there, and the match was still beautiful.
That was cool. You're talking about, I think, in 1992, Wembley Stadium, and that was that the year that Lennox Lewis came out and stuff with them? And man, that was a match, wasn't it, brother?
And it was huge. I believe it was 80,000 people, and yeah, Lennox Lewis, and like I was saying, he wasn't in the greatest condition, man, but they pulled off a beautiful match.
Well, they did all that because they was going to host that in London, of course, the British Bulldog, the London roots and all that. Originally, I believe the WWE was actually going to have Hart drop the title to Shawn Michaels prior to SummerSlam, leading up to that match. But when the company decided to hold that pay-per-view in London, dude, they had to have Smith and Hart face off in their mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a beautiful art, man. Just the purest wrestling.
And we give Vince a lot of flack, brother. It was beautifully played by them. I mean, they got this angle played up well, and one of the most historic matches in WWE history took place. So yeah, you can't not have the British Bulldog on the list. Although it is kind of hard to have him in front of the Miz, just because the Miz has had the championship so long. They call this the working man's championship, baby, and the Miz has just been the face of that.
There might not be anybody on the current roster of WWE outside of Vince that's as busy as Miz.
Man, I cannot disagree with that, brother. But at number 4, we're going to bring a little bit of energy. It's going to be the Macho Man.
Yeah, it spaces the place.
One-time IC champion, but like me and you was talking, brother, I mean, during the era when we started watching wrestling, he was the face of the belt. He's the one that gave the belt the prestige that it has today, in my opinion.
Well, an honest man, somebody says the Macho Man was the GOAT. I'm not going to argue with him. Like you said, man, when I first started watching it, he just made that belt feel special. Even though he had it once, it's a rememberable run with the title. And it's all about his skill. It was, the cream of the crop.
Yeah, but that feud that he had with Steamboat, just so memorable, dude. I mean, it really cemented that belt as something special. The performers made the belt what it is today.
Yeah, I believe that sat on. It was either 16 or 17 years PWI, but the best match. I think it wasn't until Shawn Michaels and Undertaker that match actually got uprooted, but. Definitely sticks out in my mind, man. This Macho Man always has a special place for me.
Ooh, yeah. Macho Man, one-time Intercontinental Champion at number 4, baby. I'm going to agree with you there. Who do you have at number 3?
Number 3, let's see. I know somebody's out there screaming well, that was Macho Man, not number 1.
I know it's hard. It's tough to make these lists, man. It really is. Yeah. Who do you got at number 3, brother?
I got Owen Hart, the King of Heart, Black Heart. The Game, the one that they were going to call him the Game, I believe, before they started calling Triple H. I don't know if that's the true story, but I heard that somewhere.
Owen Hart left so much on the table, too, man. 2-time Intercontinental Championship during his short time on this planet. And you couldn't help but feel like we was talking about earlier, like the best was yet to come with Owen because of the almost like the revolution that took place shortly after his death, like you was talking, the guys, the Benoits and the Guerreros and people like that, and the Jerichos.
Yeah, he'd have a complete career renaissance in the ring with those guys. He'd made all of them better, and it's just a shame, man. And anybody who listens that didn't see the documentary on Vice channel last night, it's definitely worth a look. And also the Owen Hart Foundation, give that a Google. It'll be worth your time.
Yeah, brother. And at number 2, speaking of worth your time, this guy is definitely worth our time. Chris Jericho, 9-time Intercontinental Champion, the most Intercontinental Championship reigns of all time. Chris Jericho, number 2 on our list. How does that happen? How does a man like this get at number 2 on the list? I think you folks know why. I think it's because Clyde got to choose number 1. No, but seriously,
That's
Chris
exactly.
Jericho, man. When I think about the Intercontinental Championship, I'm not going to lie, brother. I think about Chris Jericho.
Yeah, he's a special performer. I'm sure he's on a lot of people's, probably right at the top, man. I have nothing but respect for him. I've been watching since he started. I remember watching him in Smoky Mountain wrestling with Lance Storm.
And that's it? You just remember watching him? I mean, any specific things stand out? I mean, what I thought has been so cool about Jericho through the years is the ability to reinvent himself. Like as he's lost a little bit of his athleticism throughout the years, and he hasn't really lost much because he can still do some pretty nifty moves like that. What is it? He comes off the ropes and does the backflip. That's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, the first time I ever seen him, he reminded me of a young Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, young Shawn Michaels nowadays, I think, is Adam Cole.
You think so? Adam Cole? Yeah, he's an unbelievable wrestler.
But back to Jericho, man. These Intercontinental Championship runs have just been so memorable, dude. I mean, I think he actually, he battled with the likes of, Kurt Angle was what I was thinking of at No Way Out, dude. What a match that was. He dropped it to him, but what a match that was.
Oh, yeah, he had unbelievable matches, man. It seemed like, I don't know if Jericho could have a bad match, and it's amazing, and it's a blessing to see him still out there wrestling on AEW now.
Yeah, it was just awesome to see him feuding with all them guys, man, and even the likes of the Benoits and the Guerreros. He even had some angles with Mick Foley and Chyna, and just Jericho was right there in the mix of all that era, dude. And 9 times he held that title. What a run.
Yeah, that storyline with Chyna. Rest in peace there. That storyline with Chyna, that really stood out, and she was, I believe, the only female, I want to say, to ever hold the Intercontinental Championship.
Can you save it for the damn honorable mentions, brother? All right.
That's in there with Pat Patterson.
That's right, baby. Pat Patterson. He's number 1, actually. Now that we're on to number 1, it's Pat. Was it Pat Patterson?
No, unless you flipped it on me.
Number 1, brother. Who do you have?
Well, no surprise here. I got Bret the Hitman Hart as number 1.
Hard to argue with that, dude. Although that's what's cool about us working together on this list, because it's almost like a 1 and 1A to me. It's Jericho and Hart. Hart definitely the skilled technician that kind of paved the way for folks like Jericho, and Jericho the man who really took that torch and ran with it. But today we have Bret Hart number 1 on our list, 2-time Intercontinental Championship. You want to elaborate on that a little bit, brother?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, man. The first wrestling match I ever seen that really stood out in the actual wrestling, and I was like, wow, that was really amazing. That was different. Was him and Mr. Perfect, who also, he was on our list. They had an unbelievable match. The match at Wembley Stadium, even the match with Roddy Piper.
That whole angle is the best one to me, dude. The Roddy Piper angle was like 92. Hart was feuding with the Mountie. Then Hart took the cattle prod. Do you remember that? Hart got cattle prodded.
Yeah, I got lucky enough to actually be there in the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis when Bret Hart and Piper battled for it. Of course, I was up in the cheap seats. We won through Papa John's, but I was
there,
so
brother.
It felt real cool.
That's right. So Hart was feuding with the Mountie. Hart took the cattle prod and all that. Then Piper actually defeated the Mountie, took the IC championship later on just to drop it to Hart.
Yeah, it was the only title Piper ever had, which is like a crime, but at the same time, Piper was so special, he didn't really need titles.
It's so hard not to put Piper on the list, so let's go ahead and move on to this. Few honorable mentions. Who do you have? I guess Piper number 1, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Roddy Piper's got to be in there.
Yeah, talk about Roddy Piper. I mean, guys like Rick Rude. I mean, it was hard not to put him on the list. Ricky Steamboat. It was so hard not to have this guy on the list,
If it'd been real, Rick Rude might have never lost the Intercontinental.
Oh, man. If they was having a shoot fight, absolutely, dude. And Jeff Hardy, it was so hard not to just even have Hardy on the list just for the things that he did, the revolutionary ways that he changed the title and the ways that I guess it was viewed,
Yeah, did we mention the Mountie? I thought he was always a little underrated.
I'm
man.
sorry, we lost you there. We lost you there for a minute, dude.
The Mountie,
Who?
did we have him on the list? The Mountie?
You keep breaking up there, brother. All right, so let's move on to some more honorable mentions. What about Randy Orton? I'm just, you said the Mountie. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, the Mountie. Marlena, actually, on my notes here, she wrote to mention Randy Orton. So for my wife, there you go, Randy Orton. Honorable mention. Nobody looks better in their tights.
I say you're not reading the whole thing. It says Randy Orton's tights.
Oh, honorable mention Randy Orton's tights. She did write that.
There you go. All right, brother.
I don't know if anybody can fill their tights out quite like that, man. I mean, I wish I could, but it's not going to happen.
That's our list for today, brother. You need to get back to working on your bedroom body, and I'm sure our great listeners have other things to do. But thank you so much for joining us today, folks. Be sure to check us out on the web, thatwrestlingpodcast.com, wrestlingzoo.com, always updated with crazy madness from around the professional wrestling world. And before we hop out, Clyde, you got any closing thoughts, brother?
Everybody listens, thanks. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, dislike button. Tell us what your top 10 is, and David's getting hit with a guitar.
Oh, man, you heard it first. All right, folks, we're out. We'll catch you on the next.